Nice shorts theme song. Nice shorts. Yeah.
Howdy, hey, and welcome to Nice Shorts.
I'm Fu Yang.
And I'm Johnny Niddle.
And this is a show where we interview animators about shorts they make.
Today we have Eddie and Stephanie.
Eddie and Stephanie are a husband and wife team living in Austin, Texas.
Eddie is a senior animator and Stephanie is an animation lead, both currently working on mobile games at Zynga.
Outside of the studio, they work together to create their own comics.
Then build out entire worlds and pitch them as shows.
Today, they'll walk us through how they create their pitch decks.
And what they've learned about character design and world building.
They also share the importance of representation in animation.
And how they strive to share their cultural influences with others.
And now on with the show.
Stephanie and Eddie, my favorite people in the world that are both really, really sweatered up. I love it.
It's like 90 degrees out, but I got my cardigan. I'm ready.
I like my hoodie. It's cozy.
It's a Hamilton hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, how can you not wear it? Do you wear it and just instantly feel like a little bit cooler? Go and walk around and go like, sir? Like just.
It does surprisingly get a lot of compliments.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I guess everybody's seen that play at this point. So
it's one of those ones that when it came out on Disney Plus, finally, it was like everyone finally saw it.
Yeah,
it was just like, what are you doing this weekend? Well, it came out. I have to go watch it. It's homework to do. The world will be mad at me if I haven't seen it by the next day. I gotta go watch it.
You'll be able to participate in any conversations.
None. Were you in the room where it happened? What's that? Go away. Okay.
You didn't get the reference. Get out.
Okay. So enough about sweaters with zippers and buttons. Let's talk about what you two do and who you are. Please introduce yourselves for all the people who are going to love you as much as everyone else does when this is over.
I'm Stephanie, and this is my amazing husband. You gotta say your name.
Eddie.
She forgot your name already.
I didn't really just talk for him.
You go first.
Okay. Let's see. My day job is I am a lead animator at Zynga on Harry Potter Puzzles and Spells. I've been in the game industry for 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Much longer than that, actually.
Yeah, 8 years. 8 years in the game industry, and then I did TV before that. A lot of Fox shows. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now. After work, I do all sorts of world building, comic stuff, pitches, as we'll see later, with my husband. Kind of my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, and then I work at Zynga also with Stephanie. I work on Game of Thrones slots. Before I was a game developer, I used to do a lot of TV stuff. I used to freelance for the studios out in LA.
You worked in Powerhouse.
I worked at Powerhouse Animation Studios for a little bit. I did that for about 6-7 years right after college. And then I ended up just joining Zynga.
Into the mobile game world.
Yeah.
So we've been a little everywhere.
One of my favorite things, there are many as we'll discuss, but if we want to look at one of your careers, we can just put either name above the CV and it's basically the same.
Yeah, the only period that was different was when he was at Powerhouse.
Which he realized was a horrible mistake and he left and came back to you.
Oh, we got to straighten that out. We don't want to burn any bridges here.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Was AXCOP the first thing you guys did together?
Yeah.
AXCOP was the first, yeah.
First official thing, yeah. We did a lot of freelance stuff together, like a couple educational games in Dallas.
There was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Friends Night. That was the studio that was doing a lot of work for Fox. I think Fox at the time was trying to do something similar to Adult Swim. I can't remember what it was called.
ADHD.
ADHD, that's right. What it was. And they were doing a lot of that.
It was good.
We got to work on, I think probably like 2 or 3 different shows. It was like AXCOP,
Chosen.
Golan the Insatiable.
Oh, wait, 4.
Whoa.
High School USA.
High School USA too, yeah. Yeah, we just freelanced on a bunch of those shows. It was fun. It was a good experience.
Yeah.
I mean, someone got to animate a huge, big person, the creature thingy in like a little leather thong. Like, that's pretty good.
that was probably one of our favorites. Chosen.
Yeah.
That was a good one. X-Cup was fun too.
I think it was like Golan
the Insatiable, yeah. I think that was like the last one that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who can animate more seconds in a day? That was no hesitation.
Yeah, no, definitely this guy. I'm good at managing animation.
Just being modest.
I don't animate a whole lot. I do and I don't. Like not frame by frame. And he does really good frame by frame. I do a lot of puppet animation, so we're pretty different in that regard.
See,
and this guy also like will just sketch animations, and if it's not for work, generally I don't sketch animations.
See, that's the thing. This is what I also really like is like you two literally in a professional manner even complete each other. It's like you said you go home from working all the time and build worlds, and you do. Whether it's like you do the role playing, do you do LARPing?
I do.
Yeah,
I'm the nerd. Unashamedly, yes, I do.
I do like how no matter how nerdy we get at any point in life, people who do LARP are still like, no, we win.
I own up to it. I have fun, so that's all that matters. Everyone's having a good time.
I mean, LARPing is like another form of acting, which is useful for animation.
Yeah,
so.
I was actually just. It is. You really get to study physicality, which is important to translate not only into animation, but just your art in general when you're doing character studies.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I really took away from doing workshops for improv acting and LARPing and all that is how does your character carry themselves? How do they lead? Do they lead with their head? Do they lead with their chest or hips? Because that immediately tells you a story about that character immediately. Like you can tell like if they're boastful, they might lead with their shoulders or their head, or if they're really thoughtful, they'll lead with the top of their head. These are really good like informative things to apply to animation.
If they lead with their hips, they were done by an animator working on a Batman video game. I'm just kidding. But you should just call it live action references then.
Live action references, not role play.
Yeah. So you took all of that, which is awesome, and now you two basically for I don't know how long you've been doing this. You just create so many of your own IPs that you just have like a Rolodex of IP.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Yeah, we have quite a bit. Yeah,
it's dessert for us. I think just building new worlds together and seeing how everything fits together, how all the characters engage each other and this universe that we're developing. It's fun. Like we'll just sit over coffee and start shooting ideas.
Can you share more about each of your thinking process for that?
So usually we'll just throw everything out there onto a paper, whether it's through doodles or typing, just everything that comes to mind we'll put together. And what I'll do is I'll take all that information and I'll try to comb through it and see what I can keep, what makes sense, how they piece together, if we need it or not, or if it's extra fluff that's not necessary to the story. And then I'll present that to Eddie as like a rough concept. And then we'll kind of do the same thing again, but a little bit more fine-tuned, where we'll start throwing scenario ideas out or world ideas out. And we just keep doing that over and over until we get something a lot more refined. And that's basically the Rebel Rouser process.
Yeah.
We redid it so many times.
I'll go through, because I basically take the ideas that because I'm terrible at like organizing my thoughts, and like Stephanie's really good about putting it all together. Because I'll have like an idea, but they're kind of just scatterbrained, and I'll throw them her way while we're developing the story, and she can organize it in a way that I can like see visually, and then starts doing a bunch of chicken scratches.
Yeah, that's one of the things we learned more recently. Actually, is how can we present this information in a way that we both can understand it easily and digest it easily, because otherwise it's a lot of word vomit. It's kind of hard to keep up with. Ideas are everywhere. So I made it a more visual process where all the text is, you can visually see where everything is placed. It's almost like a map.
Well, yeah, because I think initially when we first started putting it together, it was like literally
a
just
long
like
Word doc.
It was a Word doc. And, like when I see stuff like that, like my brain kind of just blue screens, it shuts off. Like I need something nice to look at, and we put together those slides, and putting together those slides really helped to organize things in a more pleasing way.
We're visual people.
Yeah. But yeah, then from there, like after we get all that stuff written down, I just kind of get to sketching, and I'll just go through, I don't know how many sketches.
It's funny how much Eddie's sketches start informing the writing more than me just writing it out. Like the characters start developing on their own as he sketches them, and I can apply that into how I write out their personalities. It's really like, I'm trying to think of, it's really woven together. Like, we go in and
That's amazing.
Are you jumping like right to 3/4, Eddie? Or are you just kind of doing random poses and just action shots, or what?
I just do just whatever comes to my head
he will
right
literally
away.
draw scenes, like,
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, well, this is a cool scene that you drew. How can we apply that into an episode or a chapter? And then we'll start making a whole story around this one like sketch that he did.
Yeah, I just try to like thumbnail like just certain moments that could happen in the story. And at that point, I might not even have like an idea for the design of the character yet. I'm just drawing a
stick
scene
figures.
out. Yeah, like they're one of the characters for Rebel Rouser. Aiden has gone through so many different designs until I got him to where I wanted him to be at. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like our process can be chaotic.
It's a little chaotic, but we know each other so well that we know where to fill in the gaps for the other person.
Yeah.
But I think a good summary is that we work very, very general to very specific first. We'll build the bones, then we'll go into all the other details afterwards and just keep building on top of it until it's intricate, but in a way that the way we built it makes it easy for us to summarize if we need to, because we started with the general idea first.
That's awesome. I like, because you're basically taking the huge kernel and then just whittling it down. Because you've done this for more than a handful of these so far. Do you have a sort of preset deck or plan for like, okay, well, let's kind of tackle this and then this, or do you just let's just sketch?
Even that process has been kind of a learning process. We didn't used to have a standard deck that worked because we kept trying something different. You know, if we pitch this idea, it doesn't work, we'd get some feedback and then we'd, tune it a little bit better. I probably think our latest iteration is the most solid, where it's reflective of our process in anyway. Like, we'll start with the basic summary, then we'll move on to the premise, we'll introduce the characters, and then we'll introduce the world and how it applies to the character, and then give our episode synopsises, and that's kind of how it's broken down for us.
Yeah.
Then that's how Rebel Rouser is laid out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So you get all the information you need before even getting to the episodes, because now you have all the information you need to apply in context to the episodes.
would you like to share the amazingness with us?
Sure, I can show you the chaos that was initially what we had. So we were just talking about it. Okay, so this is what we initially had. All the yellow stuff is stuff that we decided to remove, but we wanted to keep the information there, just in case there is some cool stuff that we wanted to pull from it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So you just
Yeah,
make
because
a
there
new
could be
copy.
like, yeah, because there could be like ideas that we like. Okay, well, this probably won't work, but then later down the road, like, wait, maybe this can work now. We'll go back to it and try to like sneak it in there somehow.
I like. Hi, Eddie.
Oh yeah, sometimes we'll put really stupid, but you can see like this is a lot of words that are kind of hard to read at a glance. And sometimes we get to a point where we start contradicting each other because we decided to change something and we didn't note it. This is all stuff that we don't use anymore. Anyway, it just wasn't really efficient to work this way. And we have our latest updated version here. That's,
Hooray!
It does look. I like that you even gave it like ferns and like it's even in the pandemic. Even the deck started getting trees. It's awesome.
Now we have everything laid out. This is specifically for our comic. Just our basic concept is here. Rebel Rouser is a summertime adventure about two all-American kids on a road trip of a lifetime through the bayous, where they'll dodge scary... I totally misread it. It's right there. I'm not even reading it right. Scary specters, Sukiyo, and ghoulish goblins. There we go.
Yeah.
I like how you were going to give up with like six words left.
Look. It's all the information's here. They can read it.
Is it ironic that your longer summary here is actually really short?
I do have it written. I just got to transfer
The
it.
longer summary is just done in the car.
It's got to transfer it from the other document. But, we have our character sections, all our important notes for Aiden, references.
Oh,
So cool.
This is all his explorations. He went through a lot of iteration.
did any of your family members ever had that kind of hairstyle? I'm very curious. Like for this.
So my uncle,
Yeah.
it wasn't like, it was almost kind of like a pomp that he had way back in the day. Like a sad little pomp.
I hope he's not watching this.
It was more of a circumstance and less of a pomp.
Like, if he is, I'm sorry, but
He's gonna find you.
Hey, if your uncle's watching this, we did all right. Nice.
I think it ended up being more like a giant Puerto Rican fro than anything else.
That's nice and powerful. It's good.
Did we ever find out why Aiden lost a tooth?
He makes up a story every time.
Every time it's almost like the Joker a little bit. Like, I don't know how he got these scars. It's like similar with the tooth, but it's always some dumb reason that he tries to make a spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Like every time he's asked, it just gets progressively more ridiculous.
Yeah, he fought a bear.
And then it turns into something like he got launched into space and then landed back on Earth. I don't know.
It gets more ridiculous, yeah.
He's a storyteller in the worst way.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, this is still kind of a new document, so there's parts that are still being filled out as we work on it.
This is an important slide, though, because something we talked about before, and you can talk about it now if you want or later, but representation.
Yeah. So it's funny. Initially, when there's a lot more conversation about seeing representation in media, comics, movies, etc. And I was like, I was always for it, but it's something that I never really found myself thinking too much about because it's never been relevant to me. You don't see Lao people or Laotian people in anything other than King of the Hill, which is, it just didn't bother me because it's not something I ever thought about. But as we start seeing more representation in media, a lot more cultures, it kind of clicked for me, specifically when we were watching Spider-Verse, because it clicked for Eddie too at the same time. Even though it's not my culture, it's close to me because I'm married to my husband, who's Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and he had a moment that he looked at me. He's like, "I get it now."
Yeah, because it's like I'm in the same boat with Stephanie, or was in the same boat where it was like it wasn't anything I really thought of too much. But then when we went to go see Spider-Verse, and I kind of just saw like all the stuff, all of the props and everything, that it just made me think of Puerto Rico. And I was like, oh,
he's like, those are my Abuelo's curtains.
Yeah. Like even on again, I mean, it's Miles Morales, but the Miles Morales game on PS5, like I was playing through that and I could see all like the Puerto Rican food, and I was like, oh,
this is familiar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is what it feels like. I get it now.
Yeah.
I've never felt this way before. And I had the same feeling with Raya. Even, that every movie I'm going to have critiques on. That's just how it is. But just at the core, seeing textiles, seeing gestures, seeing foods that are very familiar to me in Raya was like, it made me unexpectedly emotional. And I'm not typically emotional in a lot of films. Like, I enjoy them, but I don't get a physical emotional reaction.
Yes.
Until I saw that movie. And I'm like, why am I getting so emotional? Like, it's just fabric.
Yeah.
But it's familiar to me. These gestures are familiar to me, and I've never expected to see it on, especially a Western screen. So now, since having these experiences, we're like, why don't we just apply our personal experiences into our comics? Because we never did before. So I made Rosie, Rosalani is her Lao name, the same as me, mixed Laotian American, and it's just been really cool to write from my perspective, being mixed, because you don't get that perspective a lot. Like there are challenges just being mixed. Like, you feel like a tourist in your own culture oftentimes, especially if you aren't obviously like either or, kind of ambiguous.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing for Aiden too, because I ended up changing him. Okay, well, why not make him Puerto Rican then? And then I can kind of just put in my own personal experience through him, because same as Stephanie, I was surrounded by the culture more when I was younger, but as I got older, I kind of got further and further away from it. And in some ways, this change has also helped me kind of get back in touch with that side. Because I can talk to my mom, I can talk to like my sister, or just anybody in my family, to kind of like, it's almost like a refresher. It's like, oh yeah, I remember these foods. Oh, I remember the
It's like, this is
key
important
frogs,
to me.
and it's helped me out doing that change too,
Yeah,
just to get back in better touch with my culture.
And for me, it's hard, especially since I moved out of Florida into Texas. All these communities tend to be very tight-knit, very close, very familial. So I'm removed from that situation where everyone at the temple knows me or my family or whatever. And it's hard for me to reconnect with it in any other way but how I'm doing it now, through art, through applying, even with the skirts and everything I wear. I take traditional fabrics and I make it like Western style A-line skirts, so I can wear it every day, and it's still kind of representative of the culture. And that's kind of how I keep in touch with it, because there's not really any other way right now. Because we're kind of an island out here.
Yeah.
Like the closest temple I would say is like an hour-ish away.
I'd say it was like 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah. And it's just not feasible to keep doing that. And even when I do go, because these communities are so tight-knit and a lot of the language, I'm starting to forget just because I haven't used it in 6 years. I haven't needed to. I can't communicate as much as I used to, which is unfortunate. So I do feel like a tourist, even though this is what I grew up in.
Yeah, because I never really spoke Spanish, but when I was younger, I was surrounded by it so much that weirdly I could understand what everybody was saying. Even though I couldn't speak it myself, but I think the further I got away from it, the more I lost that. I didn't really understand anymore.
Yeah.
Outside of the words.
Of course.
Yeah.
I know when you're in trouble.
Or when I know I'm in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious that for Rouser, the characters are more younger age. Is there any meaning for you, like to also bring the younger mind of yourself to tell the story?
Yeah. So, I think everyone knows their teenage years were very, what's the right word? Chaotic. You're doing a lot of self-discovery. And I think now that I'm older and I've kind of figured myself out, I can go back and analyze my experiences and why I reacted the way I did and how I grew or developed from it. Even in the hardest moments, I think like I don't view them anymore as something sad, but more like this helped me develop who I am today, and I like who I am. So I kind of want to show that process in Rouser, like that metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Like, you can go through a lot of hard stuff, but at the end, as long as you try to be a good person, you are a good person. These events led up to who you are.
Thank you. Oh, that's touching. Nice to know. Yeah.
It's important that it's a teenage story, and especially from a perspective that I don't feel like has gone over a lot, like the mixed perspective or the removal from culture perspective. Like, how do you get in touch with that? That's one of our goals among the other fun stuff, like the ghost hunting and the cryptozoology. That sort of thing.
Yes.
It's in a way that's digestible and presentable to a larger audience.
It adds another layer to the characters too. So
yes.
I mean, that's a big emotional journey you've both kind of had in the last few years. Then probably, but I mean, like, has that changed a lot of your story structure and writing and just how you feel with your comfort about it?
It's definitely helped me kind of keep some things in mind as a storyteller.
Now that, the focus is on representation and culture, and it's forced me to think about it in a good way. It's funny how much it's changed and driven our work on Rouser and everything else for the better. Because you're just not surrounded by it enough, in the past that you even think about it. And now I'm always thinking about it, like, can I apply something about myself or my culture or a culture of somebody that I know that is underrepresented? Can I apply that in here? And that's, with Phantoscope, that's kind of what we're doing too, is I'm kind of sourcing a lot of different ghost stories from different cultures, different families, and trying to rewrite them in a way that's episodic, for a cartoon.
That's awesome. I mean, especially people often overlook Laos, Cambodia. Like, it's just...
We usually just end up saying Thai because people know Thailand, but it's still different. It's its own unique culture.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain in a quick conversation. Like, if I say Laotian, they're like, what's that? I'm like, well, it's, this, that. Most people don't have the time or want to spend the time on it. And it's not like a dig on anybody, but...
No. It's pretty far from where I live, but it's like so much history and culture from those areas that's just important to know.
Yeah, it's given our characters so much more life, applying our experiences to Rosie and Aiden. It's made it so much easier to write now that we're doing it from a place that we know.
Mm-hmm.
Any examples that in the writing that have really changed?
I think the focus on family and just the fact that we are, showing how the family interacts with both Western culture and Eastern or Hispanic culture. But that wasn't really part of it before. It was kind of a background noise, but nothing crazy because initially, I didn't have Rosie as Laotian. Now that I changed it, that's a whole other element because community and family is so important in Lao culture and how that affects a second generation, third generation Laotian person, or how that affects the traditionalist views of Laotian culture versus Western ideals. Like they clash a lot, and that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, because I think before when we were initially writing them, they were kind of just sort of an ambiguous ethnicity. It wasn't really stated what they were, but I think definitely adding this extra bit to their history and their character themselves.
Yeah,
it's become a driving force for the story. Honestly.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that adds more to their character overall. Like it may not necessarily be the point, but you can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, and why they are acting the way they are because of this.
Because Nate driving around, and again, he has like a little Coqui frog somewhere on his car, which, okay, well, then you understand that he's from Puerto Rico. There's a lot of little details like that.
Yeah, with Rosie, she's kind of run from her family because they're hyper protective, very traditionalist, and she's raised in a very Western world, and that clashes a lot with a lot of ideals, and that causes a lot of stress because a traditional family might not understand why you want to do this or that, why you want to go out, why you want to be independent or move away, because that's not really a thing that happens. From my experience in Lao culture, like we'll have 3 generations in one household. Like moving away is the worst thing you can do. From my experience, it was the hardest thing to do. So I'm applying that to Rosie, like. That it was almost traumatic moving away because everyone was in tears. They were sobbing like, "I don't understand why you're moving. Do you not love us?" I'm like, "Ooh." So yeah, it's rough, but that's Rosie's character now, and it's cool to be able to tell that story.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, adding that depth, it's like you take that everything you just said and go, well, but Rosie's out on her own. So what is that? What is that behind her that she is out on her own? It's just so much more world you get to build around that.
Yeah, it's helped so much. I'm like, why didn't I do this before? Like, I know my experiences. Why don't I write from that?
When I came on, they were just like 2 white kids at the time, right?
Yeah, they were just ambiguous. We didn't really say what they were or who they were.
Right.
Yeah, like it was one of those things we never really stated like what their ethnicities were.
Because it wasn't really important to the story, but now it is part of the story, and it makes more sense why they're going off on their own for different reasons. We got the creatures that we want to use. We really want to pull from just American mythos and lore, just weird things like the Florida skunk ape that you don't really see. French Road Monster is one of them.
Skinwalker.
Yeah, we for some of these we're chatting with a lot of our friends, like one of our friends, Kiwi, she's Native American, so we'd really want to get her input on that sort of stuff, if we should do it even or not, like, and how to do it well if we do it. This is just like the stuff at a glance. The bolded ones are ones that we definitely are going to use.
The Quest Road Monster like cracks me up.
Skunk ape I gotta put in because I'm from Florida.
I have to Google skunk ape and I have to Google Oklahoma octopus so bad.
Michigan Dogman, that's gotta be a good one.
Yeah, these all sound like really cool, like minor league football teams or something. Like they're rad.
What else do we got here?
Yeah, please, more.
Oh, our chapter breakdowns. More hi Eddie, very important.
That's what makes life fun, though. It's those little details. Chapter 1, Rosie has to pee.
Chapter 1. Very important information.
It really is.
That's the crux of every road trip is how often you have to pee.
Especially after I drink coffee.
But this is
important.
We try to break down the chapter by the important beats, the summary of how we're going to start and how we're going to end it. This is where we generally begin, and then fill in all the pieces after. This is the layout of our pages.
Wow, they're so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just for you guys, we have a comparison because our art went through a series of updates based on what read better. So the one on the left is our original version. The idea was that we wanted it to look like a 50s advertisement.
Okay.
And I was very adamant on that. And me and Eddie butt heads a lot about this because, yes, we could do that, but it might not be very readable in a comic format. I'm sure there's ways that we could do it, but it just wasn't clicking. And after a lot of back and forth, we were like, okay, let's just redo the whole thing. I was dragging my feet. Eddie was all about it because I don't like working backwards. But this is the latest version, which is much more readable, a lot more digestible, clean.
I love it. What inspired like these really bright pastels? It's so cool.
I usually do a lot of the coloring. One of the things I told Eddie early on is that when we're flipping through the comic book, I would love it if, based on color alone, if you're flipping through it, you know what chapter you're on. So it was just like a quick visual, like, oh, I know I'm on chapter 2, or I know that this is the arc where this thing happened because of the color palette.
You have like a changing color script basically for the whole.
Yeah, actually, the second one you'll see totally different.
Wow.
Oh.
This made me think of like a also feature film, right? Have the color transition for each sequence, kind of like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a specific job for people that just figure out the color format for each scene in a film.
It's just
Is it
color scripter?
I think it's a color script. Yeah, I think it's color scripts.
Does it go from like slightly like more like a little bit flatter into the more like luminescent as it gets towards the end, and little like the auras are popping out kind of thing?
Decided by what is happening, but we don't have like a dull to vibrant sort of thing going on. It's more just what works for this particular
Especially
scene.
the environment too.
Like
yeah.
The next chunk of scenes that we're going to be working on introduces the villain or the antagonist of the whole story. So we're doing a lot of deep reds, royal purples, something very jarring and contrast. We're pulling a lot from like a Twin Peaks palette.
Nice.
That'll be the next chapter. Is a lot of reds, purples, blacks.
And to describe your colors, I would never have used the word dull personally. I think they're awesome. But
that's my slots animation art peeking out, just saturate it all.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm missing off other colorists, but I like saturation.
That's a big step, like, because the webcomic's been out. I mean, and you have the comic book printed that you brought to, I think, the first Lightbox, and you put it into your local store. You've had a lot of stuff out there, and to suddenly you say, well, let's redo it. That's awesome. I mean, that's a big step, and that's just, I love how you...
I didn't want to, but
Well,
it was worth it, though, I will say.
Yeah, I will say, because what it was when we were initially doing it, we were still kind of in the process of figuring out. Because I think the first time we released it was back in 2017. And while we were writing it and getting all the art stuff together, just something felt... This is kind of me, again, being like that.
Eddie's very
artist.
perfectionist.
So it's like, something felt kind of off. Like, I kind of felt like the characterization of Aiden and Rosie kind of seemed a little too mean-spirited.
It was a little mean-spirited. And this was before we had our epiphany moment, too.
Because to me, like, I come into this thought of, like, okay, well, they're two really good friends. They don't seem that way in our original draft. So we're going to change that and kind of make them... give a reason why they hang out with each other, and you can see more of their dynamic in the newer version.
And he was reading the book. He's like, "Why are they friends with each other? Why are they hanging out and like each other?"
And I just had that moment, like, no, I can redraw it really fast.
He did do it really fast. I was coloring, but I was like, "Gotta redo this." I'm very Edna mode. I don't like to look back. I just look forward.
I am bad with that. I have these moments where I just look back at my old stuff and I was like, no, I'm going to redo this again. But now I'm happy.
No, that's good. Yeah. That's good. I don't want to redo it a third time. Oh yeah, our little icons. We have rules for our icons. That also comes from working in mobile games.
Do you do like a brand guide kind of thing?
Yeah.
For Rouser?
We're starting to. It's kind of like an extra thing I'll do if we're in a little bit of a lull, or we're not doing the next page yet, or we're taking a break because work gets busy. That's why like the updates are really intermittent. It's because I would like to update regularly. It's not feasible, and I think we used to stress out a lot about it, which is why we really didn't get anywhere because it would, we get so frustrated by the fact we're not updating regularly that we wouldn't do anything anymore.
Yeah, because we relaunched this last year at the end of the year, and then things just kind of got a little chaotic, especially with
a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of work stuff, and there's a lot of family stuff too.
And pandemic.
Because of the pandemic. Yeah.
Not a good year for creativity.
More time in the day.
Yeah.
What I like is you two, like, just you knew what happens and you bootstrapped, and when you're ready, you picked it back up.
Yeah, I think for Rouser especially, we've kind of reasoned that this telling the story is more for us, and if other people enjoy it, that's fantastic. But it's a story that we want to tell for ourselves more than anything. And I think that's helped a lot with us not stressing about schedules or whatever, or panicking if we don't update on time, which is not the best if you're looking to build a massive audience. But, we're aware of it. We know that's the thing.
What I like about you two as well, though, is you're not doing it for the audience. You're doing it, you really are passionate about the creating. Like, you enjoy the characters, and you've really found the characters, and you continue to build on that because it's what you want to do.
Obviously, I'm not going to complain if an audience comes along, but that's a whole other job. It's really hard, and it's something I think on and off we both kind of stress about. Is like, man, I wish we had a bigger audience. I wish we were able to engage an audience a lot easier than we do, or better than we do. But it takes a lot of time, and we got our full-time day jobs, and then our evening time is working on our projects. So what time does that leave to really advertise or market ourselves? It's like, I'm impressed at people that can do that. I wish I had that capability. I really do, because I would love an audience. Because, what artist doesn't like to be encouraged or, have people engage them? That's fun. I like that. But it's hard. It's hard to build it.
Yeah, it's a whole other job. Yeah.
It can be demoralizing. Even if people do like what you're doing, it's hard not to look at how many are liking what you're doing and going like, why isn't it more?
No, I'll spend weeks or months on working on a bunch of pages. We'll upload a bunch of pages and like, oh yeah, this is gonna be it. It's gonna be great. And then there's like 5 flags. I'm like, I guess, that sucks, but at least we did it.
Yeah, I think like for me, I don't get bogged down too much by it, because I think like, Natalie and Stephanie have had this conversation too. I think the best feeling for me is knowing I finished something.
Yeah.
And that kind of trumps everything in the end.
And I've come around to that more.
Yeah. It's like, regardless if, the numbers aren't quite where we wanted to, the fact that I actually sat down and completed something is like, that impresses me.
Like we did a challenge to ourselves a couple of weeks ago. Let's do a full introduction comic in 3 days.
Yeah.
And we did fully rendered 11 pages of a comic in 3 days. And that was from script to finish. And I was pretty impressed with ourselves. And that was the main goal for that one entirely, was just, can we do this?
That's so cool.
Sometimes I feel like we're very slow, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't bug me. But how fast can we do it if we can hyper-focus?
Yeah.
And we learned a lot.
What's cool, it seems like you're embracing sort of what your characters are embracing, which it really is the journey. Like, when I post something, it's not about me, but when I post something, I kind of don't care about it anymore. Like, I'm glad it's up. And to me, it's like, I post a thing of like, I did it. There it is. Check. Like that was that's where I wanted something to end up. But the fun was all the little things to get to that little spot. Like the things I figured out. And you two, like, look how much internally as humans you have learned about yourselves in this journey of that. So I don't give a if no one clicks like on your thing. Look how much you've loved yourself. Like, it's just rad.
Well, I love
That's
that.
actually, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And speaking of, Dan Coltman.
Oh, yeah, that's our antagonist.
I also like that it's just Colt, man.
Oh, yeah, we have very cartoony names. Like, one of our other pitches was Spaceman Stan, because it sounded funny. So he's a janitor.
It does
That's
sound
really like how we developed that story. Is like, this is a funny name. Let's make a story.
Yeah, we were just kind of just sketching out some random ideas, and we just thought about just this janitor that just cleans up space junk. You know, spaceman.
I think that was the first pitch that we did that we sent anywhere. Was Spaceman Stan.
I'd love to see more of what you have here, but I do like the story about Spaceman Stan and the notes you got back, and then how it changed how you develop characters.
Oh yeah, so we submitted that to the Nickelodeon pitch program when they had it.
Nickelodeon. Yeah,
I don't know if they still have the pitch program, but we weren't really even expecting a response. But we did get one, and it was actually very helpful in that they at least told us what went wrong and what went right. And that's very valuable to me more than, anything else, is figuring out what I can improve on. And you don't get that a lot from, when you pitch or when you even submit job applications. Like, you don't know where you went wrong, and it's hard to improve if you have no information. But the fact that they took the time to let us know, like, this, we enjoyed this thing a lot. This is why we didn't end up picking it. And for Spaceman Stan, the issue was the main character was not relatable to a younger audience. And, Nickelodeon tends to focus on a younger audience. The main character was a grown man. And if their argument was, if it's a grown man, he should act childish so it's relatable. And Stan didn't act childish enough. Like with SpongeBob, for example, he's obviously an adult. He has a job, but he acts very childish.
You had another cool solution, too, about switching who was your protagonist.
Oh, yeah. Because he did have a little buddy.
PJ, yeah.
Private Junior was his name.
He was a sidekick, yeah. And I think they would have preferred him more if he was the main character and the story was more around him. But when we pitched it, I think we tried to develop where the story was it was never just the one character. It was always kind of a encompassing.
I can share this.
Spaceman's hand. Who does your typography? Like, who is doing the layouts for this?
I'm doing most of them. Some of our pitches I will ask our friends to make a logo for. This one I made myself. There's one for another pitch, Homeroom 13, that I had my friend Natalie develop for me. Like, I commissioned it because I can do I can do graphic design if I want to, but sometimes I either don't have the time or it's not coming out how I want it. And, pitches I love working collaboratively. So if somebody else can do a better job than me, I'll absolutely pay them to do it. Like, for example, I can't make music. Johnny!
Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, your husband plays banjo. Is he mad that you hired someone else to put banjo on something?
Yeah, I played banjo like 10 years ago, and now it's just practicing.
I'm such a fan of your style.
Thank you.
And the coloring too. I wouldn't know how fast or how fantastic it is without the perfectly blurred back. It's just, there's nothing wrong with this. So they should buy it.
This is actually still one of my favorite pictures that Eddie did. Whenever Eddie does creatures or stuff, my absolute favorite.
It's so old. It's so old.
There he is. He's this perfectionist. He's probably like, I want to redo this. Don't look at it.
I was going to ask him, Eddie, what would you fix?
How do we draw them?
He's like, they're not on
whole
model
thing.
Probably the whole thing, yeah.
It's too late. It's already on the podcast.
I know.
This is Minnie. This is the engineer of the ship.
Is it like a Rosie the Riveter kind of vibe pulling for that?
Yeah.
Exactly. PJ is this little fella right here.
He's a PJ. I see it.
And that's D-Bot. I forgot what the D stands for.
I think initially we were calling him TV Bot because he was a TV.
And then it turned into D.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. It was so long ago.
Like they killed off bunny ear antennas. You're like, I guess it's digital now.
I wonder
awesome.
what is the reference or inspiration, because it's very dramatic. How do you come out that kind of pose for those characters?
It's like I'm always like a big fan of like a lot of the like 90s anime like action shows like Outlaw Star and stuff like that. I kind of just like incorporate a lot of that stuff that I used to love from those older anime shows and kind of just put it into my style, which is obviously more cartoony, but I don't know, I just love all those like the action like overly dramatic, kind of like just
being real extra.
Yeah, just being real extra with all the poses and fighting and all that, speed lines everywhere.
Yeah, I love it. It really feel the tension, even the muscle, and the silhouette is super clear. And I feel nostalgia, like looking at every poses is very fun to look at.
One of my favorite things about his work is his energy, like the action, the movement, like you can tell everything about the character, even from like one pose, and I absolutely adore that. That's very hard for me.
Yeah, I think like for me, like what I end up, I always feel like my sketches look a lot stronger than my like final cleanups. I mean, I'm not like dogging on my stuff at all. It's just like I hate when I have like just a certain pose in my sketch that looks so nice and clear, and then when I finally clean it up, I have to like clean it up again because it doesn't have the same energy as my sketch.
Because your cleans are really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder, is there anything that you can try as best as you can to keep the energy? Any tips?
I just try to be like, especially nowadays, I just try to be really loose when it comes to inking my stuff. I think before, when I used to line my work, I'm not sure if I was just too focused on making sure things just looked absolutely perfect that eventually the final result would just kind of end up making everybody look too stiff, I guess. I think now when I go in and do a lot of my cleanup now, I kind of just, I don't worry so much about that anymore. I just try to make sure, each line that I put down, I'm happy with. As long as I still get the same feel from my original sketch now, I'm more than happy.
Did you feel like you were kind of even like tensing up the poses a bit then, like taking off those curves?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was.
Because when you had that, I mean, we don't have to go back because it was a while back there, but when PJ was doing like a power pose, you could see like how proud he was. You could see how like his hands were clenched but not too tight. And it's like Stephanie said, it's just wild of how much personality comes through in like that. That's it. Like noticing and I don't think there were like muscle lines or tension lines on the gloves even. It was just the angle of the knuckles under is like, Jesus, how did you? It's just those details.
No, that's exactly how I feel. I keep saying that he's like, it's nothing. I'm like, that's hard for me. Like, oh my God. These boards, like this is, really loose sketches, but everything reads so well. You get, the emotion, all the posture, like here, everywhere.
Yeah, I feel the sincerity from it. Like every pose, I mean it. Like the character is yelling out, like I really mean it when I do this pose for that. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're like an animation storyboarder godsend. I'm like, even like the facial reaction. It's just like there's nothing that's just blah. Not a single thing.
Thank you.
I love this. Is like my couple favorite panels. Is just you see his hands line up. You can hear the sound effect, like.
Like some of these, like I tried to like clean up some of them, and like when I cleaned it up, it just something went missing. And I was like, no, what? I'm just gonna leave it as
yeah,
it is.
especially with boards. It's all about that energy, getting that physical movement in, and I think it reads really well here.
Yeah.
The are you listening with the cheeks? It's just money. So Stephanie, if you're looking at these, like what are you thinking when you're going to color this? I mean, the character color, but like how do you add to the feeling of this with color?
I mean, there's like the obvious stuff like, high energy scenes I'll definitely make more vibrant or more hot colors. Calm scenes I'll do cool colors. That's like the basic foundation, and then from there what I actually like to do is I like to take objects or items that are important to the characters in the current scene, and I drop them and apply them in. That's like a weird thing I do, and I'm sure other people do it, but that's what I like to do too. For example, I have another character named Ida, and I usually associate her with sunflowers or daisies. So when there are scenes with her in it, I'll take nice aesthetic pictures and I drop them. Of daisies, sunflowers, etc., and then just start applying them into the scene that way. So there's always an element of the character in even the color.
Do you have like I don't know what you're drawing in, but like do you have like like a reference of like the props on the side that you just eyedrop real quick, or do you have like paint swatches you've done of them, color swatch?
Yeah, I'll eyedrop usually photographs or something, and once I get something I like, I'll save that palette out. Like with Rouser,
Yeah.
each chapter has its own palette set that I will load up, and I have Aiden's set, and that's based on either his typical outfits or an object that he likes, and that's kind of how we end up getting the reds and the blues and the pinks in the beginning.
Mm.
Pinks are very rosy. Aiden's very green, blue.
That's awesome. Do you like in music? Like what you're doing is it's like motifs basically for each character, right? So do you do things like when a character's missing and you want them to feel missed, you actually do their colors when they're not on the screen, like that? Kind of stuff?
If they're the subject of conversation, if the fact that they're missing is important, I will drop in the colors there, or depending on how it goes, maybe I'll just make it totally absent of those colors. There's no yellows because they're missing. Unless it's like a particular object, like, oh, this is Ida's, doll or something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well now it's going to have sunflower colors because that's very important to her.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I like the connection. It's the color choice linked to the object, which like have some story with the character. I like that.
Thank you. Like, I don't always follow it 100%, but it's a good start. It's a good foundation. Sometimes I'll tweak if things don't read well. Like clarity and readability is the most important, especially in comic form for us. But if it can stay and still be clear, I'm definitely keeping it.
Did you both study storyboarding in school? Because you do your panels very board-esque, right?
Yeah, like when we went to they call it the Art Institute of Tampa, but it was like
it's like Miami University, an extension of the Miami University of Art and Design. So it's one of those.
It's like a long name.
Like if I ever have to pick a drop down of what school did you go to, Art Institute of Tampa's never on there, so I have to pick Miami Institute. Yeah. I don't know if it really exists or not at this point.
We were there. It was kind of like the school definitely trained you to kind of be more of a jack of all trades.
Okay.
So we kind of got to dabble in a lot of we dabbled in a little bit of 2D animation, 3D animation,
graphic design, compositing, film. So we did like one class maybe with story. Everything we had like one class of, which wasn't really enough to be amazing at any of it initially. But what we did, because we were stressed out by this, we were like, okay, well, a lot of other schools have, big thesis films. Our school didn't have that, and I think it's really important. And we were determined to do it, so we built up a really good rapport with all our teachers. We aced everything that we could. We were really even when we missed class, we were always sure to submit everything. And then when our senior year came around, we approached one of our teachers and said, hey, this was a Christian, I think. We said, hey, we would really, really like to make what is essentially a thesis, like, a whole world. We want to build up on one world, make an animation, do the whole nine. And that wasn't really part of the curriculum, but he said, you know what? Yeah, go ahead, do it. Like, I'll let you guys do that. And all we had to do was ask him, show that we weren't going to mess around.
Yeah. And he had enough faith in us to be able to.
And we did that with a lot of other teachers. We're like, hey, can we apply what we're doing in this class, change it a little bit so it can support this film that we want to do, or this animation that we want to do.
Yeah.
Support, and that's kind of something I try to tell a lot of students is, if something's not working for you, try just communicating with your teachers, especially, if you've proven that you will do the work, that you're reliable, just talk to them. You're paying for this class. Try and make it work for you. And luckily it worked for us. We were able to do that. We were able to make our short together. We actually, won our school award for it, which was cool.
And this short is going to be shared with us?
Oh, no. I don't even have... I'm talking it up, but, it's still a college animation that we did with two people. So,
How about privately?
But you finish it. Yeah, that's a big accomplishment.
Okay. We actually got to figure out where it's at, because I don't think it's on YouTube anymore. I think we have it uploaded on our old backup drive.
Yeah, it's basically like a music video, so, we don't have rights to any of the music or anything.
Oh, perfect.
But it's like we were trying to
send the stolen music to the music person. You'll like.
I think we were animating to Cab Calloway song?
Oh,
It might have been.
that is. Did you do like some cool Betty Boop style and everything? Like,
Yeah, we were trying to do something really cartoony. It was basically a swing dance sequence is what we did. And swing dance, animating swing dance was an interesting challenge because we were doing it all traditional paper too.
Oh, wow.
So there was just paper everywhere. Like Eddie's stepdad like took a drafting table, cut a circle in it, made us an animation table.
Yeah.
Everything was huge.
wow.
That was actually the start of my Starbucks addiction.
Yes. As I drink more Starbucks.
Yeah, because
pumpkin
those,
spice.
especially when it came down to like the last couple of weeks when we had to finish that, and we were basically up every night till 5 a.m. trying to get it done.
So late it was early.
Yeah. And the thing is, we were living, because at the time we were living in St. Petersburg and we had to drive to Tampa. And between St. Petersburg and Tampa, you got to cross this long bridge called the Howard Franklin. I think it was like 10, 14 miles.
It was nothing but ocean you're going through.
So
Wow.
when we haven't slept, and I got to cross this bridge, like that whole drive just becomes a blur.
We were like putting down stacks and stacks of animation papers and hoping that they didn't get out of order because we had to, shoot them at the school because we didn't have the material.
Well, yeah, because we didn't have a scanner at the time at the house, so we actually had to take all those sheets that we drew on and then bring it over to the school to get it scanned.
I'm sure I dropped them at some point.
And then at that point, that's the only time we could be able to see if anything's like not working.
That is awesome.
What a day.
Yeah.
I mean, like we asked for this.
For anyone watching or listening to this too, they should also right now get the point you two have done. Your careers are start to finish together. Like I can't wait till you're both like 93 and drawing something.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Mhm.
But yeah, I guess the lesson for that one is make things work for you. Like if it's not, especially school, if it's not providing what you want, ask, communicate, talk to people, find ways to make it work.
Great example.
It's a great mentality, yeah. So this is your first pitch you did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Ah,
play
they're not
sports
pointing
ball.
you.
Space slug. This is one of our friends' art.
Who did this?
It was Danny.
Danny, yeah.
Danny, yeah.
Yeah. This is an example of us like commissioning our friends or our other artists to help us visualize something. Like we were trying to figure out like how do we want to show a junk world. So we asked our friend because we couldn't figure it out. We asked our friend, "Hey, can you just do a concept art of like a really junky planet with our characters that we can present in this pitch?" And he gave us this. I'm like, this is amazing.
This is adorable.
Always got to end it on a cute note.
That's going to be easy. This interview. That's going to be perfect. So, okay, after Spaceman Stay, do you want to show actually just for a contrast for people what your latest thing is?
Oh yeah. So this latest one, Phantoscope, for something totally different, no color, kid-friendly ghost stories that don't treat kids like they're stupid. Here's my like very Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because that's one thing about Are You Afraid of the Dark that I absolutely loved when I was younger, and even now because I've rewatched it several times at this point, and I think it holds up really well. It feels really timeless. Like every micro story has such a good impact. It's very Twilight Zone for kids, and that's something I want to emulate. I really like ghost stories too. A lot of our stories involve some sort of creepy thing,
Supernatural thing.
Yeah, some sort of supernatural.
I like that tagline. It may not be. What brought on this style? Where did this come from?
This came from one is I did want to do something really different from a lot of our pitches, and this is more intended for us. Like I'm going to pitch it, but I don't know if it'll go anywhere. And if it doesn't, I can absolutely self-produce this because it's meant to be low fidelity animation. I can animate it in After Effects, that sort of thing. And also, I want to take a lot of the ghost stories because my Laotian side was very superstitious. So they told a lot of ghost stories, a lot of little excerpts that either scare me to sleep or make sure I eat my food, that sort of thing. Like, how do I tell that story? And I came up with Phantoscope as a more worldly and animated version of what Are You Afraid the Dark was doing. I've been sourcing out or trying to get stories from people around me, from different cultures, different perspectives. I have a Native American friend who's going to be helping me with some stories. I have a Filipino friend. I've been asking Eddie, like, oh, what kind of spooky stuff have you experienced or what your family has experienced? It doesn't even have to be culturally driven, but just different experiences in general. And how can I apply that into an American Gothic setting while still being authentic? So you just get a whole range of ghost stories that you might not normally have access to in a way that, a lot of people, especially in the States, can understand.
It's fun. It's just such a cool style too. It's weird. Like, it captures the noir without losing the cleanliness still.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to go for like an animator-friendly Edward Gorey style.
Yeah, I love this style that Stephanie came up with here. I'm like absolutely in love with it.
And I think I was extra encouraged by seeing the teaser for Uzumaki. I'm like, oh, like that's really a look I've liked a lot. So why don't I try to do something like that?
Edward Gorey changed my childhood.
The original version of this, like, I once I decided I wanted to actually show this off or do something with it, I had to change all the titles. But a lot of the original chapter ideas were based on gory looks, like the Loathsome Couple or the Doubtful Guests or something. But I don't want to make that muddy. I don't have that anymore, but that was the initial idea. Very homage.
Did you two grow up and see those old, I think it was just called Mystery?
Yeah, I remember that, and I don't remember, because that was one of the references I pulled up, and I'm blanking right now.
That sounds super familiar. For some reason, my brain went to Unsolved Mysteries. I know what you're talking about.
Do you guys ever do animation with rigs on your own?
Yeah. Actually, Phantoscope is going to be one of those where we're rigging it. I actually have more collaborative efforts. My tech artist at work, I've asked, hey, can you figure out how to do IK rigs for these characters in After Effects? Because I have that available and it's what I'm most familiar with. He's like, absolutely. So he's been working on making facial controls for them that I can just kind of slide around. It makes the animation process so much easier just to do on my own. We've been experimenting with, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Duik? UIK. It's like a plugin for IK rigs, which is what my tech artist is doing.
When the producing process will be rigging these animators, would that affect how the character looks or design, or it is design first and then rig will figure out?
I definitely designed these characters considering the limits to animation, because I wouldn't have put all these little line details everywhere if it was going to be frame by frame or hand animated. That'd be a nightmare. But because these are going to be mostly puppeted, I can do that. I can get away with adding these little line details, these sketchy marks, because it's not going to affect anything. It's not going to add extra work. But if I was doing it a different way, that'd be out. How
you animated is somehow you need to consider how you created, like functional wise.
Exactly.
Okay.
How does that change your writing then? Because I mean, like your interaction with props and stuff like that is going to be much different as well. So does that change your writing a lot?
Yeah. I've been boarding around the music that I've been sent. And with the boards especially, I'm focusing on making sure that every image in that board is something I can do on my own if I need to. And I've been mostly scripting through visuals for this one, because a lot of the stories are going to be very quiet in terms of there's not a lot of dialogue.
Okay.
That's because, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of mouth phonemes or, and if I do a lot of dialogue, I might have to hire voice actors, and I definitely want to pay them, and I want to make sure that's within my means to do so. So that's affecting that writing, that script. Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, so like Phantoscope, when you start with it, it's already in the mind of it's possible you're going to self-producing it. But other, like the previous project we saw, those really, really need a big collaborative team to achieve.
The exception is Rebel Rouser, where we started it out as a comic, and we're like, well, we already have all this information. Why don't we set up a pitch for it? We haven't actually pitched that one because, again, it's mostly a comic format that we were just going to do for us, and it's very close to us, so we're a little bit more nervous about pitching it and because we want that creative control because it's so close to our personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we haven't sent that one out yet because we're going to be very careful about it.
Yeah,
But
we're
yeah.
being very nitpicky about that one.
But all the other pitches that we've done, we've agreed that if we had to let it go, we would be okay with it. If it was to get picked up, and for some reason we don't have 100% creative control, which is probably going to happen.
Yeah.
That we would be all right with that.
When talking about pitch, how do you know the resources?
We had because we would booth a lot at CTNX. We were boothing out Lightbox, and we would actually have people approach us to pitch, which is nice because otherwise I wouldn't know where to go unless there's public options open, which was the first one that we did with Stan. That was like a public, Nickelodeon pitch whatever you want sort of thing. But
because we were lucky enough to actually have people from just like Netflix and like Amazon actually approach us to ask us to pitch them something. And so at this point, we've basically just been trying to come up with ideas and shooting things at them and getting critiques and kind of learning how to approach our next pitch idea.
Yeah, and there's some stuff that we acknowledge that's totally out of our control to know. With one of them, this actually Homeroom 13, certain themes or characters that might be similar to something that they're already doing, so they don't want to double up on that. Even if it's something that I personally I would have been like, okay, well I can switch that out. You don't get that opportunity with a pitch. It's either yes or no.
Yeah.
That's something important for, I think, a lot of animators to realize is you will almost always be shot down, and it's for something super random.
You can prepare all you want, but you don't have the information they have, so you can't know if it's going to be similar or not.
No.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to where, again, the people we've been talking to have been super helpful.
No, they've been fantastic, and I'm glad that every time that we send something, they provide good feedback, or at least explain this, we like this a lot, but this is the reason why we can't move forward with this, and it's good for us to know.
Yeah,
rather than just being like, no. Okay, well, why? What did we do wrong?
I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. It feels like that's kind of changing where people are getting more feedback now. Like how you said, you got feedback on what wasn't working even back then. I don't think people realize how rare it used to be to get feedback on anything.
No, we were actually shocked too. We're like, wow, they actually took the time to not just give us a generic response. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We even with the when we were pitching to Nickelodeon too, the fact that we got a response that wasn't just a generic decline email. It was actually somebody that kind of explained to us why they didn't pick it and what they enjoyed and what thought could be improved on. I thought that in and of itself was already a win because we actually got.
We were very pleased about that rejection for some reason.
Yeah, somebody actually took the time to look at our stuff.
Engagement is so important, and that's why I try to give it back to even students. If they email me with questions, I'm gonna spend time on it because it's important, and it's important it was important to my development to get these responses and engagement and feedback. I want to provide that to other people if they ask me.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. I just hope people, if they listen, they know not hearing back, even though it sucks, is maybe it's changing, but it used to be really normal. So. It's hard. Yeah. Do you feel it's changing more? Because I hear that a lot too from people that are talking about animation, even in studios, is they want to give more feedback. It feels like everyone's trying to give back more now.
I don't know if it's just because maybe just the context we ended up getting, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's because of the situation where we got these contexts, why we get feedback. I don't know if it's based on the person or if it's a consistent thing, because we only talked to 2 different people and they're pretty good with that. I don't know if it's just them though. Maybe it's a thing that they like to do.
Because even with the when we were sending to Nickelodeon, we didn't talk to anybody directly. We just sent it to the pitch site, and we still got feedback.
Yeah, and I don't know if everyone got that or they didn't get that.
I know in our experience we've always gotten feedback. So
I can't imagine everyone does, because that's the sad thing is big networks. They usually don't, because my God, it's a lot of.
Yeah. And I just full transparency, I don't blame anybody involved in these if they can't give feedback, because you get such a massive amount of submissions or emails. It's impossible. It's going to be impossible.
Right.
So I don't want anybody to take offense if they haven't gotten individualized feedback. We've just been very lucky, and we find it very useful when we do get it.
I feel like I would take networks not giving individual feedback if it meant they would review more pitches and give more opportunities. So it's like, yeah, it's definitely
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so Homeroom 13.
This was our second
one. Yeah.
Yes, this was taking learnings from the first one, making it more focused on kids, school environment, creatures as usual, because we like our spooky stuff. This logo was made by a friend of ours. I commissioned it, Natalie Eklund. Nice. We worked on this with it was me, Eddie, our friend Nick Swift, look him up, and Crystal Arnold to help me with the writing. So this was a 4-person project, and then collaboration with Natalie as well for the logo. So this was one of our first like large collaborations. Like I said, we had 2 extra people helping us with this, and then collaborator. And this was kind of a result of after we were approached with, like, hey, you should pitch to us. We're like, okay, well, this is a lot of work, so maybe we should, I want everyone else to share in our success too. So why don't we ask Nick and Crystal to help us draw and write stuff? And just share the workload. And it was a lot of fun doing this because we would just spend hours at coffee shops brainstorming. There's index cards everywhere of our boards and sketches, and we would just keep like switching them around different places. We took up like 3 tables,
telling a lot of really dumb jokes.
And what's fun about doing it, together in person is that it is the naturally forming dumb jokes that we would apply into the stories and the episodes, and they because they were so natural, they were funniest rather than me sitting there trying to think of a funny joke.
Yeah, basically had a writer's room.
Yeah, and it's really fun.
What year is this?
I'm pretty sure this was 20s.
Your memory is better than me, so I'm gonna go with that.
It was a long time ago.
Just for the record, I'm not gonna fact check you, so I believe you. Whatever you say, I believe it.
Because there are 4 people are working on story together, right? So is that because based on your daily life, the relationship with them, then you know that they can add the right spice into the story?
Yeah, because before we were working on pitches, we would just do sketch nights together. And that's where we always shoot our ideas out for our individual stories. So when we got these opportunities to pitch, we're like, it was a natural response, like, yeah, let's bring in Nick, let's bring in Crystal. Like, we love doing this stuff together, and it feels natural.
I mean, it helps that we all have like the same sense of humor too.
How about because before the shows are you two's working on, and you have a very clear value or core, but when it comes to 4 people and maybe 4 different kind of cultures, how do you try to find out the same goal or core for that?
It's hard to answer that because it just comes so naturally. Like, we don't even think about it. Like, it's not a problem ever.
Yeah, we never, at least when we were putting this together, we never really had any moments where
we had to really think about how can we combine our ideas. They all just fit together.
Like-minded.
Yeah, because we would just kind of everybody just throws in their ideas, and then everybody just kind of works around how to get it to fit into the story. And we never had an issue with that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So it was nice to have a partner writer, though, to help siphon Eddie and Nick's information.
Yeah, especially when you have... Yeah, exactly.
Is it ever beneficial to bring in someone to help write stories who kind of sees everything totally differently just for a little bit?
Well, we kind of try to find like a devil's advocate in a way to kind of like reread something to make sure it makes sense to somebody else who isn't a part of the writing group.
Yes, I always...
Yeah.
I love getting a third eye.
Some people pitch to 4 quadrants. You pick to 4 friends. It's perfect. Yeah.
And what's nice about our collaborative group is that we will call each other out on stuff. We're not shy about it.
Yeah.
And I like that because it helps me, look at things from a different perspective or angle that I didn't consider. And, I might not always agree because there might be a reason that's developed in such a way, but it's definitely helped round out my writing a lot more. Especially because, I'm not professional writer or anything. I'm just kind of doing this in my free time.
Yeah.
It's important for me to get that other eye and make sure it makes sense. I'm just guessing half the time. Like, I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but it works for me.
That's life. Which is
Nice.
really good guesstimates. Whose favorite color is green? Okay.
That's mine.
I don't like green.
I have green in like in all my characters almost.
I don't like 0 out of 10.
Just like green.
Which is it's why you know that's true love is because she has to do the coloring and she lets it stay.
I'm like, are you sure you want this green? There's a lot of green in your characters.
But it,
It's not all. Spaceman stands orange.
That's true.
well, that's probably the second most used color. Is it's green, orange, and then you could tell when Stephanie's take over because it turns to like purple, violet, and
Yeah, no, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah, totally accurate, 100%.
It turns into like the Disney pink and purples.
poor Yorick.
He's like he's supposed to be a drama mask. I have a turnaround where you can kind of see the back of his head.
There it is. There it is.
There it is.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
wow!
He's a little dull in hand, so he'll switch his head out for random things sometimes. But he's the thespian.
These are all so perfectly can be product. I mean, like a action figure.
Oh, I wish. If
Yeah.
anyone wants to make, action figures, that's, you got our information.
That's something we should talk about. But the one, the pose he had in the top right, where he's doing like that, I don't know, was so good.
I love that.
Yeah, like
Anything.
ooh.
Just put these faces more. Do like finished renders, but with the stupidest face. I love it.
Like, can you emote more?
That's exactly his character.
He's very dramatic. Our elves. Regulus is what his name was.
Yeah.
Regulus.
Regulus.
Oh, he's very regular. That's awesome. So I like the idea of just like basically stamp them out like they're all the same. Like there's this
Yeah,
squad.
they're supposed to be like the preppy characters.
Yeah.
Like the elves are all the preppy characters, and they all look the same. So they just call them Greguli, like the group of Regulus. Regulus.
Like great. That is good. See, that's fun.
This doesn't have sound though, does it?
No, it doesn't. But whenever I click it, it goes to the next. Oh, there it goes. Sweet. So we could kind of talk over this.
Yeah.
You can act it out if you want.
Oh no! I don't have the script on me. I can't read it. I don't remember it offhand. This is years old.
The
Oh, wow.
next
Yeah, so this board was done by our friend Nick.
Mm-hmm.
the next theme I do for you, we can't use banjo though. I don't want banjo to turn into Stephanie's green.
But the whole premise of this scene is that they're doing auditions for Romeo and Juliet. Everyone's auditioning, but they're all really bad. So Crane, Callahan, right here, he's trying to tell them how to act, and they're not getting it, and he's not happy about it. He's like, next.
I loved like the pass through though for the face. Like that's just so smart because it's just the mask, so we just look right through it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like the design. Yes.
So here he's like, okay, I'll go over the auditions. Give me like 5 minutes. So he starts going over the audition list to make, the cast. Everyone's nervous, even though there's only like 3 of them.
wow. So Nick Swift boarded this.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Wow, man, he could board.
Oh yeah, he's really good.
Actors Union. He's a tree. He's Juliet, and she's also a tree, I think.
Oh, that reaction.
He's basically going to play all the other parts.
It goes right back to drinking it. Wow.
Yeah, we can see like the script and stuff here. But the boards were kind of initially collaborative. You can kind of see it switch between what Eddie added in or tweaked with what Nick had. So you kind of draws over it.
Oh yeah, like our hands were all over this. Yeah.
Very, very collaborative.
All right. I just mashed the potatoes after he handed them to me. It's just so cool. I mean, it's you both. What's amazing is one, you're able to boil. you're able to create so many ideas and then make them tangible, but you find these little cool things in each of them. Like, I mean, just the drama of mask being the face, and then the playing with it of being still like convex from one side and like supine on the other. Like it's just cool. Like you have so many little
Yeah,
details.
I for a lot of confidence boost. I should talk to you guys more.
I mean, like a weekly call sounds good.
It's just cool to kind of hear, because a lot of this stuff we don't really share anywhere after, if it's rejected, it just kind of sits in our drive. So it's kind of cool going back and talking about all of these. And I think talking about it makes me realize, we do a lot, actually.
Yeah, to be honest, like I kind of didn't realize how much we've done until we put all this together. I was like, I guess we have done a lot.
Me and Eddie often, stress about like, man, I wish we could pump out more work. I wish we had more energy or more time. But a lot of what we work on isn't really front facing or visible, I think, to a lot of people. And I don't know where I would share, a pitch packet, how I would share that.
I feel like most people create an OC. Like, I mean, it's not standard fare. It's still hard, but like a lot of animators and artists in general have at least one OC. It seems like, or maybe it's the one that got them into wanting to be an animator. So it's like the one from high school or whatever, and they refine it and it gets better. But almost like rare. Like, do you take a percentage of good animators and artists who like character design, are confident enough to give it a shot, take their OC, boil it down, and then they still don't get to this stage? Like, you've created like concepts, you've created stories, you've created character arcs, you've created moods, not just for one thing, not for two, not look at, if you were to sit down and look at how many characters you've made with names and stories and worlds, like, Jesus Christ. You've developed several shows.
I got more.
Yeah,
like they haven't been produced, but you've developed several shows.
Whoa.
This is
Hyperdimensional.
Yeah.
It's our love letter to magical girls, because everyone in our circle basically is incredibly influenced by anime and magical girls, and it's we've been seeing more of that combination with East and West aesthetic. And we're like, okay, well, what's our take on it?
Yeah.
So this was our second pitch we did as a group with Nick and Crystal, me and Eddie.
We actually had another friend, Kiwi.
Oh yeah, Kiwi too. Yeah.
It's growing bigger this time.
Like I said, we always want to share our successes and opportunities with the people around us. Like, we want to build each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's, just for a pitch, even if it doesn't go anywhere, it gets us all creating, and it's really fun to talk shop. So this character Sukiyo, this design is what we ended up settling on, because everyone in our group that we've been working on projects with has a very, very vastly different and distinct style. So this was a marriage of all of it. Like, how can we make it approachable, cute, appealing, and still kind of give that homage that we want? Like, for the next slide, it's our friend Nick's work. He's a lot more anime influenced. So, she looks entirely different here. But, this is part of the exploration, is how do we marry all our styles?
Whoa.
Lots of exploration.
Who did this one?
Nick's work.
Okay. Oh, these are all his right here?
Yeah, beginning. This is when we were just kind of figuring out what we wanted this to look like.
The sonic booms off the hair is just genius touch.
This is all pretty messy because we never quite. This is one that we actually didn't end up sending out.
Yeah, this one was pretty. We never sent this one out, did we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I think this was one of the ones where we were having a hard time figuring out the right direction and the right amount of complexity, because animes can get pretty convoluted. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But to pitch it quickly to a network, it needed to be a lot more streamlined than we were able to make it at this time. So this one went through probably the most iteration of any of the stories that we did.
There should be a site that is like curated pitches that are obtainable, can still be bought, and then just have them on that site and like give each network like, here, just come look when they're there.
I mean, that'd be cool. At least have somewhere to go, because right now it just sits in their box.
Yeah. It kind of, because each network has their own stipulations about how visible your pitches can be.
Yeah, that's even why, like, earlier I'm like, oh, should I show Phantoscope if I'm going to send it? I don't know.
I mean, it should be
Like
fine. Yeah.
Netflix is kind of like, don't share.
I think. I mean, we've never gotten past that point where we had to worry about it. So
Yeah.
Maybe.
I know with I think Nickelodeon was like that when we sent something over.
Yeah, when we did our submission for the pitch event, they were like, don't share it anywhere just in case.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the other networks.
Yeah, it's never been a problem yet.
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes how much of that is them like going like, we don't want to have to compete with someone right away on buying this.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was my exploration. Very rare that I'm in this.
Stephanie, you're all over these pitches.
I'm in the writing. I don't do a lot of the art because I get stressed. But I did test, play around with this one. I love this angle.
And this is definitely yours, right, Stephanie? Okay,
We ended up really liking the very 90s aesthetic look.
So
But, these are all unclean, messy, writing. So don't look at the writing.
so you didn't pitch this one just because you lost interest, or didn't get the opportunity, or what happened?
Like I was saying, we just had a hard time really streamlining what we wanted from this.
Yeah, I think we got kind of caught up on just the simplifying the story that we wanted, because I think it was one of those things where we were all throwing ideas out, but every idea we would throw out ended up becoming too convoluted.
Mm.
And since it's a show that's being pitched for a much younger audience, at the time that's who we were pitching it towards, we couldn't find that right balance of something that's going to be very, very kid friendly and something that's going to be a little too adult in a way that it might be too confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So after a while back and forthing this, we were like, okay, well, we'll shelve this for now. And we might return to it later.
Yeah.
But we moved on to other projects then because we just couldn't figure out the right angle.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even the styles are, we never quite settled on a final style. The art in here is pretty much everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Do you think that, I mean, how do you feel that in the difference between, because this one you said you had 5 people pitching in, as opposed to now it's 1 or 2. So Phantoscope is basically just you, Steph, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I usually lean on Eddie a lot to help me with the designs because he's really good at figuring out fun proportions, fun shapes. And admittedly, I have my comfort zone, so it's nice to get another person to red pen it and push the shapes for me.
Mm.
Obviously, I've been a fan of you both for a while, and it's just following what your art has been on Twitter's, where you mainly share yours, Stephanie, and then Instagram, Eddie, you're on both. But watching the last year and a half, it's you've seen the styles morph back and just it feels more like you, both of you.
Very important, I think, is to reconnect with the stuff that made you love drawing to begin with, and not always try to chase the hustle. I keep repeating that, but it was a long learned lesson, I think, because I think we both went through a period where we're starting to get really do you like drawing anymore? It's just associated with work. I don't know if I even want to draw after work. I think it's important to talk about it because a lot of times you can feel a little isolated with these feelings because everyone wants to be positive on social media, and that's good, but not at this, at the cost of having these important conversations. So you're not the only one that feels this way. A lot of people feel this way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, would you like to talk about it now?
Burning out from art is very real and happens a lot, especially when you work as an artist in any capacity, because it's that constant association with you are always working. If you're drawing, you are working. If you are doodling, it needs to look great so you get engagement. You can get that next job. It's constant.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's just I don't want to just chalk it up to it's like a typical artist thing. So you just kind of go, you're doing your thing, you keep drawing, you're enjoying what you're doing, and then all of a sudden, just the next day, you don't enjoy it because it's why am I not better than where I was yesterday or prior? I feel like I'm not improving.
And
you just turn into
self-loathing.
Yeah,
tortured artist.
Yeah,
and it's even more prevalent, I think, because the world has become very flat with social media, and it has a lot of positives. It's a really great way to advertise yourself, to do things, self-funded. But you're also constantly seeing art and stuff that both inspires you, but if you're not where you want to be or you're not happy with your work at the time, it also serves as a reminder, like, man, I have so much I haven't done yet, or I need to learn. And time continues. You get older, and you're like, am I ever gonna learn how to do this? Am I ever gonna get where I want to be? Well, that's a hard thing to contend with constantly if you're on social media, because you're always seeing it. Like, even with us, I'm happy with where I'm at, but there's always that thing where like, oh, I would love to do color work for a show or do character designs for the thing that the show I really like or that other people will really enjoy. Am I ever going to be able to do that? That's a real conversation, a real talk.
Yeah. You're already doing that. Look at all the pitches you guys create. Like,
it's funny. Like, it's getting that other perspective, because I try to remind myself, yes, we've done a lot, and we might not be doing the stuff that some of our peers are doing that we really want to do, but we've done a lot on our own too.
I go into some like weird phases, because it's like I go through the whole like tortured artist, and then I'll go through that for maybe like a couple days, and then I kind of look back on the stuff that I have done, and I was like, oh no, I think I'm okay. And just at it again.
That being said, always open to opportunities for like doing character work, art, or coloring, whatever. We're still constantly pushing to get to the place that feels right. But for now, I think how we're working on our personal projects is a way to do that, and be self-sufficient until the opportunity comes.
Yes,
we have a lot of fun with this, because at the end of the day, even if we were to be on a job doing amazing character work for an amazing IP, you're still 90% of the time going to be doing somebody else's stuff.
Right.
And that's fine. Like, I would still like to, have my name on something that I can be very, happy or proud of or whatever. Not saying that I'm not now, but, with different shows, television shows. But, doing these side projects is a way around that. Doing comics, doing a self-funded, scary story sort of thing.
Yeah.
We're in a good enough position where, like, okay, well, why don't we do this ourselves? We have a lot of people we know. We have, we know musicians, we know boarders, we know tech artists.
Yeah.
Let's ask them to help us out.
Yeah.
That might be your path. Like, really, there are thousands of ways.
Yeah, exactly. I think I said it earlier too. There's a million, like you were just saying, a million ways to get to the same end goal.
Yes.
It's just hard not to compare yourself on social media. Like, you're always going to be doing it. You're both simultaneously inspired and also like, man, is this, I don't want to view it as competition, but in a way it is too. It's hard to like untrain yourself for that, because you're always trying to hustle.
It's so hard to not stop and go, geez, like, music bought me cars and shoes and groceries, like, and go like, how many people will look at that and go like, you haven't had I haven't had like a different job since 2008. And there are a lot of people who look at that and go, oh my God. But all I see is like, but I haven't done that. I can't do that. I'm not doing that. It's so hard to get out of that.
You get a tunnel vision on everything that you want, but not what you have. So it's nice. Even doing this is like, wow, I guess I have done a lot of stuff.
Not you guess, you do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like
amazing.
when I get, a third eye or, conversate with other people and start explaining the stuff I did, I'm like, I have a lot to talk about. How long has it been?
Like, we conflate success, or I think we tend to conflate what we can and have done with what other people know we've done, where it's like, like I said, you've developed several shows. They just haven't gone on air. But I mean, you've developed more shows than many showrunners that have had ones on air. It's just, it's hard to not let go of, like, I don't know, the measuring stick. It feels like we all constantly give the measuring stick of our worth to somebody else to hold on to and use, where it's so hard to reel it back and go like, well, I have done all these things. Like, I don't know how that gets fixed.
It's hard not to want validation outside of your own head too. Like, for me, occasionally I'll go through motions. I'll just flop over and look at AIM like, why doesn't nobody like my stuff? talking about? I love it. Like, it's just like, you can't control things like algorithms or whatever, like visibility. You don't know when people are active half the time.
Yeah.
Like, there can be 1,000,001 reasons why you're not getting engagement, but there's, just draw for yourself. And I'm like, I guess. I feel better about it. Same thing with Eddie in like a couple days, but I'll have my moments where I'm just like flopped out on the couch, like I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, I have like my moments too. It's always like, I'll look at somebody's stuff and I'm like, that looks so cool.
I want to work on it.
I want to be at that level too. And then I go into my tortured artist mode. But then like, I usually take that, kind of cliched word, but I kind of just try to take that negativity of that tortured artist thing and try to put that energy into, okay, well, that means I'm just going to step up my game now even more. So I'm going to start pushing myself as an artist even further so I can get to where I think I should be. That makes any sense?
I think that's part of the thing of how you're a pro is like when you look at the person's art, right? And you're seeing, you're like, well, I can't do that thing. Someone doesn't develop that sense yet. They're not able to look at it and see what it is they can't do. Where you're looking at it going, oh, I need to learn how to do that specific thing. And you can look at it and go, oh, that's the thing I'm not doing. And then you go learn it out of frustration or whatever. Like, so you learn to get better, but also you've learned to see what it is that you want to do.
It's that critical eye. It's actually something that I've learned doing animation lead is working on my critical eye, because there's stuff that I never used to notice when I'm critiquing or sending revisions to my team members. A lot of stuff would get past me, and my manager would be like, hey, you need to pick up on this stuff. Did you notice this? I'm like, I didn't notice that. So he helped me learn how to work on my critical eye and identify these things. And understand, like, oh, this is what needs to be fixed, or this is what looks wrong. Like, it's hard, it's easy to miss, but now that I've trained myself, I can identify it. Like, oh, I can solve this out now before it ever gets in the game.
I think about the feedback thing, I somehow believe that when people are willing to give you guys so many constructive feedback is also because you present so many things already. Like with their eyes, they can see a certain thing, like really develop out, so they can give you the right direct thing to tell you what is working, what is not. It is because you give so much. So yeah, maybe for some audience, maybe they might want more feedback. I'm hoping it's because that we should like follow you guys. Like we just try to pull out more and think for this project more concretely, and then it's supposed can you will giving back some things for us to grow more.
That's
something
great
like
point.
that.
That's a great point, Fu.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You give people a lot to be able to give feedback on. Like, it's a great point. If you just drew like a rough sketch, they wouldn't know what to say anything about. So yeah. If someone were to come hire you, what would each of your ideal roles be?
I would be shooting for character design.
And he
loves, that's what I used to do over at Powerhouse for a little while.
And he loves anthropomorphic characters. He loves sporting style, very animated. But I can talk about Eddie all day.
What about you?
It's like I like you. Me?
Yeah.
I want to color.
Okay.
What colors do you?
I love coloring.
Except for what colors?
Except for
and
green.
You won't.
Don't ask me about green. Don't look at me if you like green.
Sesame Street just looked and we're like, oh, we can't hire her. Okay, you know what? That's a good point. You can't talk about each other. So what's your favorite thing about each other?
Art-wise or just overall?
Let's go with art-wise, because I don't want to make it too unrelated. Like, because you're going to say his hat. That's the answer, obviously.
I do like his hat.
It's a good hat.
Pretty nice. I actually married the hat. Let's see. I love how much Eddie plays with shapes. If you look at his portfolio, his website, eddiedraws.com, he has so much variety in like body types, shapes, characters, animals, humans, like a little bit of everything. And on the production section of his portfolio website, like, vastly different stuff. He did cleanup animation for Agents of Mayhem, very like high anime look. You know, he has production art for Henry Danger, very like, you know, adult comedy kind of Family Guy-esque look. It's just all over the board. He's really well-rounded. He obviously is really good at what he likes doing, but like a good character designer and animator, he can style match really well. And then he pushes poses. He has great expressions on everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to make sure my portfolio site looks good now.
Yeah.
I updated it last night.
And
I updated the site for him without telling
that's
him.
awesome. And now you have to follow up that answer somehow. So
I know, I have to follow that now.
Oh, I'm not done. I can keep going. I've only been on this for very long.
No,
Just go to his site and you'll see what I'm talking about.
So Stephanie, like I've always loved how Stephanie, she can portray mood through color and lighting so
Because I used to be
well.
goth, so I'm really moody.
Yeah, just the way her paintings are, she just conveys so much of that. It's very cinematic. Yeah, just like your lighting and coloring is
I do like moody.
gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
I also love that she pulls me back whenever I'm in my torture artist mode.
That's very
Fishing reel.
important.
It's the product of perfectionism, which I'm really against being super perfectionist, because you start getting in your own head. Like, you look at all the things that you don't like or what you view as wrong in your art, and you can't see all the good stuff. And he does that a lot. Don't do that.
Yeah, I tunnel vision a lot. Like, I'll see like one drawing I liked at one point, I don't like anymore, and then I compare all my other drawings to that one drawing I don't like anymore. We do everything.
there's a good follow.
We do it all the time, but, we all have our moments where we're just dissatisfied with what we're working on, and it helps to have another voice to kind of combat your own inner demon.
Yes.
I think it's also very helpful that just we just kind of help pick each other back up whenever we get through these kind of moments in our art careers.
Yes.
Yeah, I will flop on the couch a lot and whine, and I'm like, you want to work on some projects? You want some chicken nuggets? For some reason, it's like a joke now. Whenever somebody's having a hard time, he's want to go get some chicken nuggets?
Chicken nuggets.
I want a happy meal.
The question from the last guest, and they almost answered, was, and I'm going to make each of you answer individually, but I'm pretty sure they'll be almost identical. If you could animate a music video for any band, what band would it be?
Gross, yeah.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Gorillas. They are a big influence for both of us, both musically and stylistically.
Jamie Hewlett. Like,
And I love
his art style.
And even with the music, I love how experimental a lot of it can get. It's everywhere, and I love how collaborative they are. Obviously, collaboration is very important to us.
Nice.
So just gorillas right off the bat. Okay, now what is your question for the next guest?
What live action show would you recreate as an animation?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Thank you for helping.
That ones. And I'm like Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Oh,
So what?
yeah.
I don't know if I was supposed to answer the question that we literally just gave, but I'm going to answer it. Love that.
Hey, you can answer your own question. It's
Yeah.
totally fine.
What live action show would you animate?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I have so many in my head.
I gotta pretend I'm Columbo.
List it out.
It's like
Oh, did you? So you're.
Office, maybe?
The Office.
I think Stephanie just answered it. Columbo.
Columbo.
So I never watched Columbo until recently.
Eddie's
here,
in love with
and
it.
I was like, "Oh, this show's amazing."
He's kicking off right now, and I don't know what happened. Like,
A friend of ours, Crystal, showed us the show, and we're like, okay, I see the charm.
it's so old.
This is
too.
cute.
Like, the first episode, I think, is like the 60s. Like,
Yeah,
that's-
it's a pretty old show.
That's a long time ago. There's one more thing to do.
Oh, shoot. How are we going to end the show? Hey, will you marry me again?
Okay, yes. I'll tell you what. How about you both renew
Okay.
your vows right now for the show?
Hey, you want to renew?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, my God.
Perfect ending to the show. It's a fairy tale ending. Thank you so much for joining us today. You both are amazing and just
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
This was really
Thank
good for us,
you.